What if a simple act of kindness could change your life forever? Join Alex, a 12-year-old boy with a heart full of hope, on an incredible journey that begins with a single dollar. After spending his last dollar on a stranger's coffee, Alex receives a mysterious package at his doorstep. The morning sun peeked through the gaps in the old, heavy drapes of Alex's small bedroom, casting a warm glow on the simple furnishings. Alex, a boy of around 12, with tousled brown hair and wide, curious eyes, stirred under his thin blanket. As he sat up and rubbed the sleep from his eyes, he looked around his modest room. The walls were adorned with sketches and cutouts from magazines, remnants of a creative spirit constrained by limited means. Alex's family wasn't wealthy, they lived paycheck to paycheck, scraping by in their humble apartment. His mother worked long hours at a local diner, while his father had been out of work for months, struggling to find steady employment. Despite their hardships, Alex was a cheerful and optimistic boy, always finding joy in the little things around him. The pressure on his mother and the frustration felt by his father sometimes created a tense atmosphere at home, but Alex tried to remain a source of positivity for them. Today, however, he felt a bit different. He had a single dollar left from his allowance, saved carefully over weeks of doing odd jobs and chores. He'd planned to treat himself to a small snack or maybe a new pencil for his sketches. As he got dressed, he carefully folded the worn dollar bill and slipped it into his pocket, feeling its slight crinkle against his fingers. Outside, the neighborhood was just waking up. The air was crisp, and the sky clear, a perfect morning in their small town. Alex made his way down the street, his sneakers scuffing the cracked pavement. He loved mornings like this, where the world seemed fresh and full of possibilities. As he approached the corner coffee shop, a cozy little place with a worn wooden sign that read Bean and Brew, Alex could smell the rich aroma of freshly brewed coffee wafting through the air. He paused outside, considering what he could afford with his precious dollar. A bagel, maybe, or a small hot chocolate. The choices felt important, a rare treat in his frugal world. Just then, he noticed an elderly woman standing near the entrance, fumbling with her purse. She wore a thick, woolen coat that seemed too big for her frail frame, and her gray hair was neatly tied back in a bun. Her hands shook slightly as she tried to find something in her purse, looking increasingly flustered. Alex hesitated, watching her. She seemed lost, perhaps in thought or simply overwhelmed by her search. People passed by, some glancing at her briefly before moving on, preoccupied with their own mornings. Alex felt a familiar tug in his chest, a mix of empathy and the urge to help. Stepping forward, he spoke softly, "Ma'am, do you need help with something?" The woman looked up, her eyes a soft, cloudy blue, filled with surprise and a hint of relief. "Oh, dear, I'm afraid I've misplaced my wallet," she replied, her voice gentle yet frail. "I wanted to get a coffee, it's such a cold morning, you know." Alex nodded, feeling the warmth of the coffee shop's interior beckoning them both. Without a second thought, he reached into his pocket and pulled out his dollar bill. "Here," he offered, holding it out to her, "why don't you let me buy you a coffee?" The woman's eyes widened, and she looked at Alex with a mixture of gratitude and disbelief. "Are you sure, young man? That's very kind of you." Alex smiled, feeling a strange warmth in his chest, a lightness that was worth more than any snack or pencil. "It's okay," he assured her, "I don't mind." Together, they walked into the shop. The barista, a friendly woman with curly hair and a wide smile, greeted them. Alex handed over his dollar, and they ordered a small coffee for the elderly woman. As they waited, she turned to him, her eyes softening with emotion. "Thank you, dear," she said, her voice choked with gratitude. In a world where everyone seems so rushed, it's easy to feel invisible. Your kindness means more than you know. Alex felt his cheeks flush, embarrassed by the attention. He shrugged, trying to play it cool. "It's really nothing. I just thought, well, everyone deserves a little kindness, right?" The woman smiled, a tear glistening in her eye as she received the warm cup of coffee. "You're absolutely right," she said, patting his arm. "It's the little things that make all the difference." They chatted for a few more moments, exchanging small pleasantries. Alex learned her name was Mrs. Williams, and she lived alone in a small house a few blocks away. As she sipped her coffee, she shared a bit about her late husband, a kind man who had passed away years ago, leaving her with fond memories and a quiet life. When the coffee was done, Mrs. Williams thanked Alex once more, her eyes shining with a mix of joy and gratitude. "I won't forget this, young man," she said, her voice sincere and warm. "Thank you for reminding me that kindness still exists in this world." Alex watched as she walked away, feeling a swell of pride and contentment. He hadn't realized how much such a small act could mean to someone else. As he stepped out of the coffee shop, the sun was a bit higher in the sky, the day a bit warmer, and his heart a bit lighter. He walked home with a spring in his step, thinking about the simple pleasure of helping someone. It was a feeling he wanted to hold on to, a memory he would cherish. He felt richer, not in money, but in something far more valuable, kindness. As Alex turned the corner to his street, he felt a sense of anticipation, as if the day held something special just around the bend. Little did he know, this small act of generosity was the beginning of a journey that would change his life in ways he could never have imagined. And so, with a heart full of hope and a spirit lifted by a simple coffee shared, Alex stepped into the rest of his day, unaware of the mysterious package that awaited him on his doorstep, a package that promised to unravel a story of kindness, fate, and the unseen connections that bind us all. The morning after Alex's encounter with Mrs. Williams was much like any other. The summer sun filtered through his bedroom window, gently waking him from sleep. He stretched lazily, feeling the pleasant soreness from a good night's rest. The memory of the previous day floated back to him, the warmth of Mrs. Williams's gratitude and the quiet joy of knowing he had made a difference. A small smile crept onto his face as he rose from bed. As Alex dressed, he found himself replaying their conversation in his mind. He marveled at how such a simple gesture, buying a coffee, could mean so much to someone. It was a thought that filled him with a sense of purpose, a belief that small acts of kindness truly mattered. Heading to the kitchen, Alex was greeted by the familiar clatter of dishes and the comforting aroma of toast. His mother, already dressed in her work uniform, was bustling about, preparing breakfast. She looked up and smiled as he entered. "Morning, Alex," she said, her voice warm and cheerful despite the early hour. "Did you sleep well?" Alex nodded, grabbing a slice of toast from the counter. "Yeah, I did. And guess what? I met this really nice lady yesterday, Mrs. Williams. I bought her a coffee, and she was so happy. It felt really good." His mother paused, looking at him with a soft, proud expression. "That's wonderful, sweetheart. It's amazing how the smallest things can brighten someone's day." They shared a quick breakfast, chatting about the day ahead. As his mother prepared to leave for work, she kissed him on the forehead. "Remember, Alex, kindness always comes back to you in ways you least expect." Alex smiled at her words, feeling a pang of warmth in his chest. After she left, he decided to head outside to enjoy the fresh morning air. He loved the quiet moments of the early day, the way the world seemed to hold its breath before the hustle and bustle began. As he opened the front door, he noticed something unusual on the doorstep. A small, neatly wrapped package sat there, tied with a simple brown string. Alex's brow furrowed in curiosity. He hadn't ordered anything, and it wasn't his birthday. He bent down to pick it up, feeling its surprisingly solid weight. The package had no address or postage, just a small tag with his name written in elegant cursive. Alex felt a twinge of excitement mixed with a hint of caution. He carried the package inside and set it on the kitchen table. Taking a deep breath, he carefully untied the string and removed the wrapping paper. Inside was a small, intricately carved wooden box. The craftsmanship was exquisite, with delicate patterns etched into the wood. Alex gently opened the box, revealing an old-fashioned compass nestled in soft, velvet lining. The compass was beautiful, with a brass casing that had aged gracefully, giving it a vintage charm. Beside the compass lay a folded piece of parchment. Alex unfolded it, revealing a handwritten letter. The handwriting was neat and flowing, with an old-world elegance. He read the words slowly, savoring each line. Dear Alex, your act of kindness did not go unnoticed. In a world where kindness is often overlooked, your gesture stood out as a beacon of light. This compass is a gift, a reminder that your actions can guide you, and others, towards something meaningful. Follow it with an open heart, and you may find yourself on a path you never expected. With gratitude, a friend Alex stared at the letter, his heart racing with a mix of emotions. Who could have sent this? And why a compass? His mind raced with possibilities. It felt like something out of a storybook, a mysterious gift from a secret benefactor. He picked up the compass, marveling at its weight and the smooth feel of the brass. The needle spun lazily before settling, not pointing north, but in a direction slightly off-center. He remembered his mother's words about kindness coming back in unexpected ways. Could this be what she meant? The idea intrigued him. He felt a thrill of adventure, a curiosity that tugged at him to follow the compass and see where it led. With the compass in hand, Alex stepped outside, the morning sun warm on his face. The needle pointed steadily in one direction, and Alex decided to follow it, feeling like a character in one of the adventure stories he loved to read. He walked through familiar streets, the compass guiding him past the usual corners and into less familiar territory. The further he walked, the more he wondered where it was leading him. Was there a specific destination, or was it more about the journey itself? The path took him to parts of the town he rarely visited. He passed by the old library, a place he had loved as a child but hadn't visited in years. The compass led him through a quaint little park, where children played and an elderly couple fed the ducks. Everywhere he went, he noticed small acts of kindness, people holding doors open, sharing smiles, and helping one another. Eventually, the compass guided Alex to a quiet street lined with charming old houses. He paused, looking around. The street was peaceful, with an air of nostalgia. As he walked further, he noticed a familiar figure sitting on a bench under a large oak tree. It was Mrs. Williams, the elderly woman he had met the day before. She looked up and smiled as Alex approached. "Hello, young man," she greeted him warmly. "What brings you to this part of town?" Alex hesitated, then showed her the compass. "I received this today, with a letter. It said to follow it, and it led me here. I don't know what it means, but I felt like I should see where it would take me." Mrs. Williams's eyes sparkled with intrigue. She leaned forward, studying the compass. "Ah, I see. It seems you've been chosen, Alex. This compass is not just any compass, it's a symbol of the journey you're about to embark on. It's guided many before you, and now it's your turn." Alex felt a shiver of anticipation. "What kind of journey?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Mrs. Williams smiled, a knowing look in her eyes. "One of discovery, my dear. Discovery of the world around you, and perhaps, of yourself. The compass will guide you to people and places that need your kindness, just as you needed it. It's a path of goodwill, one that can change lives, including your own." Alex felt a surge of excitement mixed with a touch of apprehension. The world seemed suddenly full of possibilities, each step a potential for something new and meaningful. He looked down at the compass, its needle steady and sure, pointing towards the unknown. With Mrs. Williams's words echoing in his mind, Alex felt a renewed sense of purpose. He didn't know what lay ahead, but he was ready to find out. The journey was just beginning, and he was eager to see where the compass would lead him next. With the compass in his pocket and Mrs. Williams's words lingering in his mind, Alex felt a blend of curiosity and determination. He left the quaint street behind, venturing further into unfamiliar parts of town. The compass needle continued to point in a steady direction, as if it had a purpose that Alex was destined to uncover. As Alex walked, the neighborhood gradually changed. The old, charming houses gave way to more modern buildings, and the streets grew busier with people going about their daily routines. The morning sun climbed higher, casting a bright, warm light over everything. Alex's steps were purposeful, his mind racing with questions. Who had sent him the compass, and why? What kind of journey was he on? He soon found himself in a lively part of town he rarely visited. The area was bustling with activity, street vendors selling fresh produce, artists displaying their work, and musicians filling the air with lively tunes. The atmosphere was vibrant, a tapestry of colors, sounds, and scents that made Alex feel alive with excitement. As he wandered through the market, the compass led him to a small park tucked between tall buildings. The park was a peaceful oasis amid the urban hustle, with lush green grass, flower beds in full bloom, and benches inviting passers-by to sit and relax. Children played on a small playground, their laughter ringing through the air, while parents and grandparents watched with fond smiles. Alex's gaze was drawn to a street musician playing a guitar under a large, leafy tree. The man, perhaps in his late 20s, had a rugged look with a scruffy beard and worn clothes, but his eyes sparkled with a kind of quiet contentment. His music was beautiful, a soulful melody that seemed to speak to everyone who passed by. Feeling a pull towards the musician, Alex approached and listened more closely. The man noticed Alex and gave him a warm smile, nodding in greeting. As the song ended, the musician put down his guitar and wiped the sweat from his brow. "Hey there," the musician said, his voice friendly and open. "Enjoying the music?" Alex nodded, smiling back. "Yeah, it's really great. You play beautifully." The musician chuckled, a modest glint in his eyes. "Thanks, I appreciate that. I'm Lucas, by the way." "Nice to meet you, Lucas." "I'm Alex," he replied, feeling an immediate connection. "I've been walking around, following this compass." He pulled the compass out of his pocket to show Lucas. "It seems to be leading me somewhere, but I'm not sure where or why." Lucas raised an eyebrow, intrigued. "A compass, huh? That's interesting. You don't see many of those around these days. Where did you get it?" Alex explained about the mysterious package and the letter that came with it. Lucas listened attentively, nodding occasionally. When Alex finished, Lucas looked thoughtful. "Sounds like you're on quite an adventure," Lucas said, a hint of admiration in his voice. "Sometimes life has a way of guiding us to where we need to be, even if we don't understand it at first." Alex considered this, feeling a deep resonance with Lucas's words. "Do you think the compass could be leading me to help people? Like maybe it brought me here to meet you?" Lucas smiled, a gentle light in his eyes. "Could be. I believe everyone we meet has a lesson for us, or maybe we have one for them. It's like a dance, you know? We all play our parts." They continued to talk, sharing stories about their lives. Alex learned that Lucas had been traveling for years, playing music in different cities and towns. He had chosen a life of simplicity, believing that music was a universal language that could bring people together. His guitar, a well-worn instrument with a rich, mellow sound, was his constant companion. Lucas shared a particularly poignant story about a time when he was struggling with loneliness and doubt. He had been playing on a street corner, feeling disheartened, when a little girl came up and handed him a single flower. She didn't say a word, Lucas recalled, his voice soft. "Just smiled and handed me that flower. It reminded me why I started playing music in the first place, to touch hearts and bring a little light into the world." As they talked, Alex felt inspired by Lucas's outlook on life. He admired the musician's courage to live authentically, to follow his passion despite the uncertainties. It made him reflect on his own journey, wondering how he could bring more kindness and joy into the world. Eventually, Lucas stood up, slinging his guitar over his shoulder. "Well, Alex, it's been great talking with you. I think you've got a good heart, and this compass might just help you find your own way of making a difference." Alex nodded, feeling a swell of gratitude. "Thanks, Lucas. I'm glad we met. Maybe the compass brought me here to learn something from you." Lucas grinned. "Maybe it did. Take care, Alex. And remember, the journey is just as important as the destination." With that, Lucas walked off, his guitar case clinking with coins and bills. Alex watched him go, feeling a sense of clarity. The encounter had left him with a deeper understanding of what the compass, and perhaps life, was trying to teach him. It wasn't just about finding a place or helping others, it was about being open to the experiences and connections along the way. As the day drew to a close, Alex made his way home, the compass still in his pocket. The needle pointed unwaveringly, and Alex felt ready to follow wherever it might lead. The journey was far from over, and Alex was eager to see what new paths the compass would reveal, what new people he would meet, and what new lessons he would learn. The adventure was unfolding in ways he could never have imagined, and Alex felt a deep sense of anticipation for the journey ahead. He realized that sometimes, the greatest discoveries are not about the places we go, but the people we meet and the experiences we share. With each step guided by the compass, Alex knew he was not just following a physical path, but embarking on a journey of personal growth and understanding. And so, with the sun setting behind him, casting a warm glow over the town, Alex continued to walk, eager for the next chapter of his adventure. The compass, a silent guide, pointed towards the horizon, promising new beginnings and endless possibilities. The days that followed Alex's encounter with Lucas were filled with a renewed sense of purpose. The compass, still faithfully pointing in its mysterious direction, had become more than just an object. It was a symbol of the journey he was on, a journey of discovery and kindness. Alex felt an eagerness each morning as he picked up the compass and set out, curious about what new experiences awaited him. One sunny afternoon, the compass led Alex to an old, slightly run-down part of town. The area had a different feel from the lively market or the peaceful park. Here, the buildings were aged, some with cracked paint and overgrown ivy, but they held a certain charm and history. The streets were quieter, with fewer people around, and the atmosphere felt introspective, almost melancholic. As Alex wandered, he found himself drawn to a small shop with a faded sign that read Antique Treasures. The shop looked quaint, with dusty windows displaying an eclectic mix of items, old clocks, vintage furniture, and assorted trinkets. The compass seemed to insist he enter, so Alex pushed open the creaky door, a bell tinkling softly above his head. Inside, the air was filled with the musty scent of old books and polished wood. The shop was dimly lit, with narrow aisles crammed with shelves full of antiques. An elderly man, wearing round glasses and a tweed vest, stood behind the counter. He looked up as Alex entered, his eyes twinkling with a kind of quiet wisdom. "Good afternoon," the man greeted, his voice soft and welcoming. "Looking for anything in particular?" Alex shook his head, smiling. "Not really. Just exploring, I guess." "I have this compass," he said, pulling it out to show the shopkeeper, "and it's been leading me to different places. I just followed it here." The old man leaned forward, adjusting his glasses to peer at the compass. "Ah, a beautiful piece," he remarked, his voice thoughtful. "It seems to have a story of its own." Alex nodded, intrigued. "Yeah, it does. I've met so many incredible people because of it. It's like it's guiding me to learn something." The shopkeeper smiled, a knowing look in his eyes. "Perhaps it's leading you to uncover stories from the past, or maybe to create new ones of your own. Every item in the shop has a history, just like your compass." As they talked, the shopkeeper, whose name was Mr. Thompson, shared stories about some of the antiques in the shop. He spoke of a time-worn grandfather clock that once stood in a grand estate, and an old, leather-bound book filled with handwritten poetry. Each item seemed to hold a piece of history, a glimpse into lives long past. Mr. Thompson then motioned towards a corner of the shop, where an old wooden chest stood. "There's something special in there," he said, his voice low with a hint of mystery. "It's been in my family for generations, passed down from my great-grandfather, who was a renowned traveler and collector." Curious, Alex walked over to the chest. It was ornately carved, with intricate designs that suggested it had traveled many miles and seen many adventures. With Mr. Thompson's permission, Alex opened the chest, revealing an array of items, maps, journals, and various artifacts from different parts of the world. Among the items, Alex noticed an old photograph, yellowed with age. It depicted a group of people standing in front of a small, rustic house, all smiling warmly at the camera. At the center of the group was a young man holding a compass strikingly similar to the one Alex had received. Alex's heart skipped a beat as he held up the photograph. "Is this your great-grandfather?" Alex asked, his voice tinged with excitement. Mr. Thompson peered closely at the photograph, a smile spreading across his face. "Yes, indeed it is. That's Thomas Thompson, an explorer and philanthropist. He had a passion for helping others and believed in the power of kindness and adventure. That compass in the photo looks just like yours." Alex felt a chill run down his spine. Could this compass have once belonged to Thomas Thompson? And if so, what journey had it been on before finding its way to him? The connection felt almost magical, as if the compass was a link between the past and the present, guiding him along a path that others had walked before. Intrigued, Alex asked if he could read one of the journals from the chest. Mr. Thompson nodded, handing him a worn leather journal with delicate, faded handwriting. As Alex flipped through the pages, he found entries detailing Thomas Thompson's travels, his encounters with different cultures, and his efforts to help those in need. One entry caught Alex's eye. It described a day when Thomas had given his last few coins to help a struggling family buy food. The next day, he found a mysterious package at his doorstep, containing a compass and a note thanking him for his kindness. The note had urged him to continue spreading goodwill, just as Alex's letter had done. As he read, Alex felt a deep connection to Thomas Thompson, as if they were kindred spirits. It was a powerful realization: he was not the first to follow this compass, and perhaps not the last. The compass had been a silent witness to many acts of kindness and adventures, passing from one person to another, each adding their own story to its history. Mr. Thompson watched Alex closely, noticing the boy's deep concentration. Thomas believed that the compass was more than just a tool for navigation, he said softly. He saw it as a guide for the heart, leading its holder to opportunities for kindness and understanding. Alex looked up, meeting Mr. Thompson's gaze. "It's amazing," he whispered, his voice full of wonder. "This compass, it's like it's part of something bigger. Like it wants to show me that the world is connected in ways I never imagined." Mr. Thompson nodded, his eyes reflecting a lifetime of wisdom. "Indeed, Alex. The world is full of connections, often unseen but always there. Sometimes, we just need a little guidance to see them." As Alex left the antique shop, he felt a profound sense of gratitude and awe. The compass had not only guided him to people and places but also to a deeper understanding of the world and his place in it. It had shown him that kindness was a journey in itself, a path that connected past, present, and future in a continuous, unbroken line. With the sun setting and the first stars appearing in the twilight sky, Alex walked home, the compass still pointing forward, urging him onward. He knew his journey was far from over, and he felt ready for whatever came next. The adventure had taken an unexpected turn, revealing a legacy of kindness that spanned generations. As he looked ahead, Alex felt a deep sense of purpose, eager to continue the journey and add his own chapter to the compass's storied history. The weeks following Alex's discovery of Thomas Thompson's journal were filled with contemplation and purpose. Each day, the compass led him to new places and people, unveiling small acts of kindness and connections that Alex had never imagined. He felt as though he was part of a larger tapestry, woven together by the shared threads of generosity and goodwill. One crisp autumn morning, the compass guided Alex to a quiet, leafy neighborhood he had never visited before. The houses were old and charming, their gardens filled with late-blooming flowers. The air was fresh with the scent of pine and fallen leaves, creating a serene atmosphere. Alex followed the compass's unwavering needle to a modest, well-kept house at the end of the street. The house looked welcoming, with a porch swing and a neatly trimmed hedge. As Alex approached, he noticed an elderly woman sitting on the porch, knitting quietly. She looked up and smiled warmly as he walked closer, her eyes crinkling with kindness. "Good morning," she greeted him, her voice gentle and melodic. "What brings you to my little corner of the world?" Alex returned the smile, feeling a sense of calm wash over him. "Good morning. My name's Alex, and I've been following this compass, he explained, holding it up for her to see. It's been leading me to different places and people. I think it's guiding me to do something important, but I'm not sure what. The woman set her knitting aside and motioned for Alex to sit beside her on the porch swing. I'm Mrs. Elwood, she introduced herself. It's a pleasure to meet you, Alex. That compass seems to be a special one, leading you on quite the journey. Alex nodded, sitting down and feeling the gentle sway of the swing. It has. I've met so many incredible people, and I've learned a lot about kindness and the connections we share. Mrs. Elwood smiled thoughtfully. Kindness is a powerful force, Alex. It can transform lives in ways we often don't realize. Sometimes, it's the simplest gestures that have the most profound impact. As they talked, Mrs. Elwood shared stories of her own life, filled with moments of joy and hardship. She spoke of her late husband, a man who had always believed in helping others and spreading kindness wherever he went. She described how they had once hosted a neighborhood potluck for a family who had just moved in and were struggling to make ends meet. The gesture had brought the community together and formed lasting friendships. Listening to Mrs. Elwood, Alex felt a deep sense of connection and understanding. It was as if the compass had led him here to learn this very lesson, that kindness was not just about grand gestures, but about the everyday moments where people came together to support and uplift each other. After a while, Mrs. Elwood paused, looking at Alex with a twinkle in her eye. You know, Alex, I think the compass has brought you here for a reason. There's something I want to give you. She stood up slowly and disappeared into the house, returning a moment later with a small, ornate box. Alex accepted the box, curious. As he opened it, he found a beautifully crafted silver locket inside. The locket was engraved with intricate patterns, and inside, it held a photograph of a young woman and a man, both smiling brightly. That's me and my husband, many years ago, Mrs. Elwood explained, her voice soft with fond memories. This locket was a gift from him. He always said it was a symbol of the love and kindness we shared. I'd like you to have it, as a reminder of the connections you're making on your journey. Alex was deeply moved by the gesture. Thank you, Mrs. Elwood, he said, his voice thick with emotion. This means a lot to me. I'll cherish it and remember everything you've shared with me. As he put the locket around his neck, he felt a warmth spread through him, as if the locket was a tangible link to the kindness and love that had permeated Mrs. Elwood's life. They talked a bit longer, sharing stories and laughter, before Alex finally stood to leave, feeling enriched by the experience. As he walked away, he couldn't help but glance back at Mrs. Elwood's house, feeling a deep sense of gratitude for the encounter. The compass had brought him here, not just to meet Mrs. Elwood, but to learn a valuable lesson about the enduring power of kindness and community. The next day, as Alex prepared to set out again, he felt a tug of curiosity. He opened Thomas Thompson's journal once more, flipping through the pages. Near the end, he found an entry that described a tradition Thomas had started. Each year, he would give the compass to someone who had shown exceptional kindness, with the hope that they would continue to spread goodwill. Alex realized with a start that the compass had been passed down through generations, each person adding their own chapter to its story. It was a legacy of kindness, a thread that connected countless lives. And now, it was his turn to decide what to do with it. Feeling a sense of clarity, Alex made his way back to Mrs. Williams's house, the woman he had first met and bought a coffee for. She had been the start of this incredible journey, and Alex felt it fitting to share this moment with her. Mrs. Williams greeted him warmly, and they sat in her cozy living room, sipping tea. Alex recounted his experiences, the people he had met, and the lessons he had learned. As he spoke, Mrs. Williams listened intently, her eyes shining with pride and joy. When Alex finished, he pulled out the compass and handed it to her. "I want you to have this, Mrs. Williams," he said, his voice steady. "This compass has been a guide for kindness and connection. It's led me to so many wonderful experiences, and I think it's time for someone else to continue the journey." Mrs. Williams looked at the compass, her expression one of awe and gratitude. "Oh, Alex," she said, her voice filled with emotion. This is such a beautiful gift. But are you sure? You've been its keeper, and it seems so special. Alex nodded, feeling a deep sense of peace. I'm sure. It's brought me so much, and now I want it to do the same for someone else. It's a way to keep the kindness going, to continue the legacy. Tears welled in Mrs. Williams's eyes as she accepted the compass. Thank you, Alex. This means more to me than words can express. I'll make sure to pass it on to someone who will cherish it as much as you have. As they embraced, Alex felt a profound sense of completion. The journey had been about more than just the compass, it had been about the people he had met, the connections he had made, and the understanding he had gained. He realized that the true gift of the compass was not just in its guidance, but in the kindness it inspired. Leaving Mrs. Williams's house, Alex felt lighter, as if a great burden had been lifted from his shoulders. He looked at the world with new eyes, seeing the potential for kindness in every person and every encounter. The journey with the compass had changed him, making him more aware of the simple, profound impact of giving and connecting with others. As he walked home, the sun set in a blaze of colors, casting a golden glow over the town. Alex felt a deep sense of fulfillment, knowing that he had played a part in something much larger than himself. The compass had been a guide, but the real journey had been within, discovering the power of kindness and the importance of sharing it with the world. The story ended with Alex standing on the threshold of his home, the autumn breeze gently rustling the leaves. He looked up at the sky, feeling a deep connection to everyone he had met, and to those who would come after. The compass, now with Mrs. Williams, would continue its journey, bringing light and kindness wherever it went. And so, with a heart full of hope and gratitude, Alex stepped inside, ready for whatever adventures life had in store for him. The journey had been an extraordinary one, filled with unexpected twists and turns, and it had left him with a simple, profound truth: kindness is a journey that never truly ends, but continues to ripple outward, touching lives in ways we may never fully understand. In that moment, Alex knew that he was part of something timeless and beautiful, a legacy of kindness that would continue to grow, one act at a time.